Welcome. I'm the Parliament Raven. The time is the 1990s, and the first book of the Left Behind series is dropped like an atomic bomb on culture and Christianity of the late 90s. People start worrying about being left behind. It's an old theology where people are raptured up, the word raptured, to be taken up, and everyone else is left for the travesties and challenges of the end time. God's people are whisked away. Teleportations. Think of Star Trek. And in the most popular of movies, all that is left is their clothes, which I don't know why they would leave their clothes. Because when Jesus ascended, he was still clothed. It's very weird on how Christians or Hollywood shows the rapture. Countless songs and movies have followed suit since then, pushing this old ideology of being raptured out of trouble. So pull up a seat, pour yourself a cup of tea. My name's Jason Rodriguez, and I'm the Parliament Raven. And today we're going to talk about the rapture myth and how it steals your legacy. Rapture mythology has Christians staring up at the sky rather than planting themselves in the world. And yes, we're supposed to be in the world and not of the world, but there's this idea of legacy that is throughout the entirety of the Bible that disappears with this theology. Rapture culture makes believers wait to leave the world instead of transforming it. Why should I go to college? Why should I save money? Why should I build lasting things, churches, libraries, schools? Why should I create things when they're all going to be gone and destroyed because of the end times? This is not an attack on hope or Christ's return. It's a challenge to what are you doing while you're waiting? Seriously, what are you doing? What is even the rapture, okay? A recent theory, let me try to shekel it down, all right? Wrong use of shekel, but hey, it sounds good. Before the 1800s, no major Christian tradition taught about a secret rapture. Origen traced this back, and I'm not talking about the person, the origin is traced back to John Nelson Darby in the 1830s and the Plymouth Brethren movement, popularized in American by C.I. Scofield's Study Bible in the 1909. So 70 years later, this was popularized with the Bible edition. The rapture began in the middle of Scotland in 1830. All right, so let me paint a scene. A small revival community in the port of Glasgow. Green hills, small village, nice church made of stone. A teenage girl by the name of Margaret MacDonald is bedridden during a fever, surrounded by prayer and spiritual expectations. Back then, fevers usually claimed people's lives. You did not survive fevers. And so you had this community who was definitely seeking the Lord for Margaret's life. In her fever-stricken, bedridden state, she has a vision. She spoke to believers of being taken up before judgment, not fully formed doctrine, but a fragment, an emotional reaction to the world, shaking with plagues, revolutions, and uncertainty. It's the 1830s, and man, it's just as tormentuous of a societal thing then as it is now. Except we have a lot less understanding back then of everything. All right. Margaret, who knows where Margaret's vision came from? Who knows the discernment? But people took this seriously as a thing, and from it, and the anxieties of the time, who wouldn't want to be taken up and be pulled out of all the things currently going on around them? Listeners, don't get me wrong, like, it's escapism in some of its earliest form. The hope in Christ's kingdom, but I want to, but being taken away instead, no death, no dying, just 1 minute here, the next minute gone. It's like a badly formed isekai, except for, there is class isekais where the whole class gets sucked up to another world. Be something like that. People believe in that nowadays, so why not a rapture? And so over time, over the next thing, let's say 100 years, we're headed to 200 years now. So because we passed 1930, we're headed to 2030. We're 4 years away from that. Let's date this podcast episode. Mainstream things came out, right? I mentioned Left Behind. There's prophecy conferences. Some people have made millions off of it. 8 reasons why the rapture is going to happen in 1988. We have TV preachers, telethons, some, I don't know if to call it positive or negative. If one person was saved from it, then there's a positive. But making millions off of a fear that you're going to be left behind for more extended, buffed up super tribulation. Some of the things talked about is like unknown demons rising up from the sea, people not being able to kill themselves, being immortal even if they take a gunshot wound to the head. There's some serious stuff in the book of Revelations that we could unravel. And even then, combined with what the anxiety and stuff that's going on now, people wouldn't mind escaping it. Not only that, but you're going to be in a perfect body. You're going to be in a place full of love and joy. There's no sickness. Every tear is going to be wiped away. You're with the creator of the universe and a being of tremendous love, creativity. Heaven is just as beyond imagination as hell. Check my Hell Bent episode. That being said, of course Margaret's going to be taken seriously, and of course this theology is going to be continued through to today. So John Nelson Darby later heard a similar idea among other revival groups. Unlike Margaret, he systematized it, right? I'm giving you more history, into a structured theology. And eventually C.I. Scofield heard this, the interpretations, and into the margins of his study Bible, put that transforming speculation into his mainstream belief. So how has this type of escapism ruined our mission? And we can look over the last 100 years. Faith shifts from discipleship to a deliverance service. Believers become spectators, not servants. And Christians become about leaving earth and not about healing it. Rather than becoming salt, I want to prepare myself to get out of here. And I've talked to the generation before me, and this was so heavy that a lot of them are still suffering from the implication of this theology in their lives. And their children suffer, and the legacy of their grandchildren suffer. Now, it didn't happen to everyone, but there is a large proportion that this has affected negatively. it impacts churches and society, right? It was an emphasis on justice, community building, arts, science, and education was emphasized less and less and less. Who doesn't want, when we start to pull ourselves away, we let justice fall apart. Community becomes a thing of, why should I create community when I'm not going to be here? And why, and as I mentioned earlier, art, science, culture, education, why create any legacy if it's all going to be gone? And you can see the popularity of it as the popularity has increased. There is a correlation as the population of that theology increased and revved up. I think hitting the height in the 90s. I think now it's back on the downward trend. Hopefully we will take it in stride, is what I'm trying to say. Instead, what all this caused was a rise in fear, consumer Christianity, and it just seems like another political narrative that causes panic and fear to drive people into the seats. I've been studying Rapture theology since I was 16. That's how long it's had an impact in my life. Think about this. Let's reflect real quick. Let's take a step back, because I can get heated. I can get very just really into this. But I want to pull back and look at Matthew 24:42. And Jesus praises the faithful servant who is working when the master returns. Not sitting waiting, not spending all their thing, living as if the master, never knowing when the master is going to return. That's always the emphasis in the analogies that Christ gives. The foolish brides, the mystery of the talents, the very thing I just talked about, right? It's the mindset that goes with it. So even if the rapture does or doesn't happen, what are we doing as we follow Christ? How's this affecting our lives today? Rapture theology still has its effect. There still is a culture of fear out there, and it really takes away from purpose. And Christians ditch careers and influences from media, universities, governments, and science for so long. It's really hard for us to get back in. And not only that, the implication of the goodness of the Lord that was in those systems have faded away. So much so that it has drastically impacted our culture. When we don't stand as the salt, rot gets in. And I don't think many people are going to argue with me that these institutions have a lot of rot in them. Not to say that there's not good institutions, but man, media, universities, governments, and even science all have major issues right now. It's really massively in the issue of trust. So we have multiple generations that were raised to not invest, not create, not build, not question, not dig deeper and create. How do I put it? My ceiling should be your floor, but if I don't build that place and create my ceiling, you have nothing to stand on. You're starting below where I started from. We build churches that wait for rescue instead of becoming the rescuers that Christ meant us to be, that Christ himself sent out. Jeremiah 29:7, seek the welfare of the city, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. Ooh, it's a strong word there. Even Israel in exile was called to build, plant, and bless. So, how do we reclaim this all? I think we're on a good path, right? Personally, I think we're on a good path. I think that we see a lot in the younger generation, especially the ones who are listening, know that there's this up and coming movement in the youth that wants to seek harder and leave more impact than the previous generations because they're not worried about whether they're going to be taken away. They're worried about the legacy and how they are impacting their fellow men and women. Okay? In reclaiming, we need to do what Jesus actually told us. Matthew 5:13-16. You are the salt of the earth, a city on a hill. And like I said in my salt episode, salt preserves. It keeps things from decaying. And remember, light guides and it pushes back the darkness, right? So when we are called light, we push back the encroaching darkness. And when we're called salt, anything that has been claimed, we can reclaim, we can cleanse it, we can purify, and then we can hold back the rot, right? So it's this constant pushing back, reclaiming, pushing more back is what we should constantly be doing. For after Jesus came and claimed everything, we've been doing everything to reclamate everything back to him and the kingdom of the Lord. Practical actions. I have a list. Be a healer, not a hinder. Be a community, not a conspiracy. And that's an interesting thing, right? We can be a conspiracy. Oh, we know when God's going to come back. Recently, even up to recently on social media, there was a guy claiming that he knew Jesus was going to come back. And when Jesus didn't come back, wow, was there a major windfall? Yes, Christ is going to return. He's going to return victorious and he's going to be awesome. He's going to be fire and eyes, like some sort of super version of himself. Don't live in the conspiracy of we're just going to first be taken away. Ultimately, every verse I read is if we are, we're just going to meet him and then come right back. It's going to be like this. Up, down, right? So other things you can do, support the local needs, feed the poor, fill the food banks, help poor school teachers. I might have a favoritism towards that. Shelter those who need shelter and mentor. That's my favorite. That's hopefully what I'm doing here, Parliament. Live as those Christ will return, and not today, not tomorrow, but in 1,000 years. I would love if he came back tonight. No, actually, there's more things I want to do, so I'm glad he's holding back. There's books I want to produce on this side of heaven. The King's return when he returns. So until he does, let's give this world all the love it needs. Because, man, it needs it. Parliament, it needs you. That's why you're here. If I can equip you Parliament members with what I have and give you the things I have, then you can go out and do these amazing things. This is one of the ways I do that. There's plenty of others. So my final challenge. Build, don't bail. And I'm done. No, really. Build, don't bail. All right. Do one act this week that will help the community flourish. It could be your local community. It could be your digital community. And by digital, I mean those people on Discord or close relationships where you're consistently talking. That's community. And hopefully, periodically, you meet those online people face to face. Some nice places to do that are theme parks and good restaurants. Ooh, good restaurants is nice. You could also go out and help plant a garden or focus on planting a garden. Start teaching somebody something that you know, or go learn something from an elderly person that nobody's learning anymore, and then pass that on. Volunteer. I liked doing that. Support some students, especially the ones that are hungry. So if you live in a college town, this is for you. Or help support a single parent. They need it. unless they're a millionaire. And then they need emotional support. Create something beautiful. I'll leave it up to your imagination on what you should create. And that's it. Like, claim it, reclaim, leave legacy, build things that'll last another 1,000 years. Because we never know when he's going to return. That being said, thank you for pulling up a seat. Take another sip of that tea. And we'll talk more about stuff like this on the next time. Till then, smash like or subscribe. Hopefully that'll help the algorithm, however that works. Maybe go buy a shirt or a mug. I need to buy my own mug. Or even a sticker. You don't have to buy any of those. But you could join us on Discord. We talk about all sorts of this. We can even talk more about this if you want. I can unravel and we can go deeper. Leave tips on ideas and that you might have for me to talk about, or things that you want me to address that's out there on social media. There's a lot. I don't know what you guys want to hear. I know what I want to hear, and that's normally what I do, but ideas are always welcome. And then, last but not least, till next time, my friends, stay curious, stay grounded, and walk the path with intention. If you'd like to go deeper, the Parliament doesn't end here. We have a Patreon where you can access extended teachings, reflections, and tools. The conversation continues in our Discord, where seekers, creatives, and thinkers gather to discuss just about anything. And if you want gear for the journey, you'll find shirts, mugs, and more at the Parliament shop. All the links are in the description below. Thanks for walking the road with us. We'll talk again soon. Some ending music credits. Intro music by Russ Budgeon. Outro music by the Parliament Raven. Music arrangement by Sono AI. Not failures. Bring your fears, questions, not mistakes.